embarked on a journey through Vincent van Gogh's turbulent life and prolific artistry, from his humble beginnings in the Dutch countryside to the vibrant streets of Paris and the serene landscapes of southern France, will unveil the evolution of a genius who painted emotions onto canvas. Early life. Vincent Willem van Gogh was born on March 30, 1853, in the small village of Zundert in the southern Netherlands. He was the oldest of 6 children in the Van Gogh family. His father, Theodorus van Gogh, was a minister of the Dutch Reformed Church, and his mother, Anna Cornelia Bentes, was an artist whose love for nature and drawing was inherited by Vincent. From a young age, Vincent exhibited an inclination towards art and visual expressions. His early education was conducted in a manner typical of the Dutch rural community, but it was clear that the conventional school system didn't cater to his creative inclinations. Vincent's early exposure to art came largely from his mother, who was an amateur artist, and from the natural surroundings of his hometown, which instilled in him a deep appreciation for the outdoors and the pastoral life. At the age of 16, Vincent was employed by the international art dealing firm Groupe CIE through the help of his uncle, who was a partner in the firm. He worked in the Hague branch of the firm, where he was initially enthusiastic about the job. His role brought him in close contact with a wide array of artworks, further fueling his interest in art. However, as time went on, Vincent grew disillusioned with the commercial aspect of art that the firm represented, and his dissatisfaction began to reflect in his work performance. This period was also marked by growing religious fervor and a desire to help the less fortunate, which later influenced his decision to pursue a career in religious ministry. Early career. In 1876, he left the art dealership and moved to England, where he worked as a school assistant in Ramsgate and then in Isleworth. Feeling a spiritual calling, Vincent then delved into religious studies. He moved back to Amsterdam in 1877, intending to follow in his father's footsteps to become a pastor. For a year, he immersed himself in theological studies but struggled with rigid academic structure, eventually failing to secure a position as a pastor. On that way, Vincent volunteered as a lay preacher in the impoverished mining region of Bornage, Belgium in 1878. His time in Bornage was transformative. Living in meager conditions among the miners, Vincent developed a profound empathy for the working class. He started to sketch the harsh realities of miners' lives, marking a pivotal shift towards his true calling as an artist. By 1880, the allure of artistic expression became irresistible to Vincent. Encouraged by his brother, Theo, who was an art dealer, Vincent decided to become a full-time artist. He delved into studying books on anatomy, perspective, and the standard works of the time to enhance his knowledge and skills. Early artistic endeavors. The period between 1880 and 1886 was one of the intense artistic development for Vincent van Gogh. Initially, Vincent's work was heavily influenced by the somber colors and realistic subjects favored by Dutch artists. His early pieces reflected the harsh reality of peasant life and the beauty of rural landscape, reminiscent of the works of Jean-François Millet and Jules Breton. In 1881, Vincent moved to Eden, Netherlands, where he continued to draw and paint, capturing the daily life of people and the essence of countryside. His family, however, was not supportive of his artistic ambitions, causing tension between them. A crucial milestone in Vincent's artistic journey was his decision to move to Hague in 1882, where he came under the tutelage of Anton Move, a successful Dutch artist and a cousin by marriage. Move introduced Vincent to watercolors and oils, which significantly impacted his style. Under Move's guidance, Vincent's skill rapidly evolved, though the mentorship was short-lived due to differences in their artistic views. In 1885, after the death of his father, Vincent painted one of his early masterpieces, The Potato Eaters. This work encapsulated his early style characterized by dark colors and a focus on humble subjects. In 1886, seeking to broaden his artistic horizon, Vincent moved to Paris, where he lived with his brother Theo. It was here that he was exposed to Impressionist and Post-Impressionist art, which would greatly influence his subsequent work. Paris Period. In Paris, Vincent explored new techniques and began to experiment with color under the influence of Impressionist and Neo-Impressionist artists. His palette brightened considerably as he started to use lighter and more vibrant colors, departing from the darker, earthy tones of his earlier works. The artists he interacted with, like Henrietta Louis-Lautrec, Camille Pissarro, and Georges Seurat, played significant roles in shaping his evolving style. Vincent also engaged in a reciprocal exchange of ideas with other artists. He embraced the pointillist technique of applying color in small dots, though he later modified this technique to suit his unique style. His work from this period became more emotionally expressive and depicted everyday scenes and individuals with a newfound vivacity and color. He was particularly intrigued by the effects of contrasting colors and started to explore the emotional resonance they could evoke when placed next to each other. His experimentation with color theory during this time laid the groundwork for his distinctive style in his subsequent years of artistic exploration. Arles Period. In February 1888, Vincent van Gogh moved to Arles, a small town in the south of France, driven by a vision of founding an artistic community where like-minded artists could live and work together. The serene landscape, rustic life, and the warm, radiant light of Provence captivated Vincent, providing stark contrast to the bustling streets of Paris. In all, Vincent's work reached a new level of vibrancy and emotional intensity. His palette became even more colorful and his brushwork more expressive. This period saw the creation of some of his most celebrated works, including Sunflowers, The Night Cafe, and Bedroom in Old. Vincent was prolific during this time, producing over 200 paintings and more than 100 drawings and watercolors within 15 months. He rented a small yellow house which he dreamt of turning into a studio of the South. Vincent was joined by Paul Gauguin in October 1888, with whom he had intense discussions about art. However, their relationship became strained, culminating in a dramatic altercation in December, which ended with Vincent severing part of his own ear. This incident highlighted Vincent's escalating mental health issues. Saint-Rémy and Auvers-sur-Oise. In May 1889, after the tumultuous events in Arles, Vincent van Gogh voluntarily admitted himself to the Saint Paul de Moselle Asylum in Saint-Rémy de Provence. Despite the constraints of asylum life and his ongoing battles with mental illness, this period was marked by intense artistic productivity. Vincent had a studio within an asylum and was allowed to paint under supervision. His work during this time continued to evolve, showcasing a heightened emotional intensity and abstracted representation of reality. He produced some of his most revered works in Saint-Rémy, including Starry Night, Arles paintings and a series of self-portraits that hauntingly reflect his psychological state. In May 1890, under the care of Dr. Paul Gachet, Vincent moved to the town of Auvers-sur-Oise near Paris, where he was closer to his brother Theo. Dr. Gachet, an amateur artist himself, understood Vincent's artistic ambitions and provided both medical and emotional support. The rural landscapes and quaint charm of Auvers-sur-Oise inspired a new wave of creativity in Vincent. His brushwork made more whimsical and his use of color more harmonious. Vincent was prolific, creating nearly 80 paintings in the last 2 months of his life. Despite the outpouring of creativity, Vincent's mental health continued to deteriorate. On July 27, 1890, Vincent van Gogh shot himself in the chest with a revolver in a wheat field that he had painted many times. He died 2 days later, on July 29, with his beloved brother Theo at his side. His last words repeatedly were, "The sadness will last forever."